Right now, as I speak, millions and millions of drivers are saving money on their car insurance with GEICO. If you're one of those drivers, well done. If you're not, it's easy to join them. Visit geico.com today.
Joining us now on the line, the radio voice of 21 Bridgepoint Education Holiday Bowls and a member of the Hall of Fame, Tony Roberts. Tony, welcome to the show. You're on with Bruce and Mark.
Always great to be on with somebody from my favorite bowl game, the Holiday Bowl.
Tony, Bruce Binkowski here. You know, you did our game for over 20 times, and it seems like every year you had a close game right down to the wire. Now, you didn't do the first Holiday Bowl, but you came on in 1979. Why didn't you do our first game?
Well, somebody else had the rights to it, and we couldn't get it, and I'm not sure that a lot of people heard the game, and I know a lot of them watched it on television. And, of course, everybody in the Eastern Seaboard was happy when McConkey made the catch and from Bob Lashinsky on a 65-yard touchdown pass, and that decided the game. It was a great year for Navy because they wound up 9-3. But, you can't say enough about Brigham Young, Lavelle Edwards, because I really think that the credit in the early years for the Holiday Bowl being the game it was has to go to Lavelle, the kind of offense he ran, and the Brigham Young football team.
Tony, let's go back to 1980, that fabulous finish, BYU trailing by 45-25 with 3:58 on the clock, and I know you broadcast a lot of games in your career. Have you ever seen a comeback like the BYU comeback to beat SMU back in 1980?
Not in the bowl game, certainly. And, I just took a look at that because that was the Hail Mary pass.
That's correct.
From Jim McMahon to Clay Brown.
Exactly.
Now, I also looked at the Doug Flutie Hail Mary, which, by the way, was exactly 1 year and 1 month to the day later.
And I often wonder, why do they make such a big deal out of the Flutie game when ours was much more exciting? But I guess that's
not only that, but if you look at the play, Phelan was open. Clay Brown had one man draped on his left shoulder, one man draped on his right shoulder, had a defender facing him, and there was another defender a couple of yards away. He was surrounded by 4 defenders from SMU, and yet he made the catch. As a matter of fact, the two defensive backs who leaped in the air really probably should have either knocked it down or intercepted it because they leaped higher than Clay did. But he came down with the ball. I think that's the greatest Hail Mary pass of all time.
And, Tony, your call was legendary on that play, no doubt about it. Now, you've been through a lot of Holiday Bowls, 21 of them, and some of the games have been absolutely incredible. 38-37, 38-36, 18-17, 39-38. Taking the 1980 game out of it, is there one game that really stands above the rest to you?
Well, the Indiana game, they beat BYU the year before by a score of 38-37. That game kind of stands out. And I think when it came to one running back in a performance, Oklahoma State over Wyoming, and Barry Sanders was absolutely phenomenal what he did in just 3 quarters. He was just superb. I don't think there was ever a game for a running back like it was for Barry Sanders in that one.
Tony, you had a great broadcasting career. Tell our audience some of the places you worked. You mentioned the Naval Academy, but you were also the voice of a major college football team for many, many years.
Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Western Illinois, Valparaiso, and then I went to Notre Dame.
And you spent many years at Notre Dame, and I remember when I was a kid, Tony, I used to listen to you on the Mutual on the Mutual
no,
Broadcasting
wait a second. If
Network.
that's true. That can't be true. That can't be true, Tony.
In the Holiday Bowl, I was always hoping that somehow, some way, Notre Dame would get to play in a Holiday Bowl.
Here's a story for you, Tony. 2 years ago, in 2010, we had if Washington State had defeated Washington, we would have had Notre Dame play Nebraska in the Holiday Bowl. We had a deal set, but Washington won, and, of course, the rest is history. So we almost did it for you, Tony. Notre Dame almost made it to the Holiday Bowl.
Well, the thing I liked about the Holiday Bowl the most, the close scores, and you fellas gave the WAC an opportunity to show that they could play with the big guys. Hawaii, San Diego State, Colorado State. You don't get to hear a lot about those teams back in the East and in the Midwest. But you gave those people a chance, and you showed back then that with the best of them.
Can I just interrupt real quickly, because I know Bruce was mentioning he listened to you when he was a kid. That is absolutely impossible, because I know how old Bruce is. That would probably put you at about 140.
Now, Tony, back to the real subject we were talking about. With 1984, by having BYU playing the national championship game, which you broadcast, that also put the WAC and BYU and the Holiday Bowl on the map.
It certainly did. There was a lot of people did not want Brigham Young to win a national championship that year. They talked, look at this schedule, who they played, look at this, look at that. There were all kinds of detractors. But they won 13 games, and they weren't playing, people weren't playing 13 games then. And, of course, you had that game in Hawaii, which didn't count as a game, so you could play 13 games back then, and they beat a very good Michigan football team.
That they did.
Won it by a score of 24-17, and that's the first time that the national championship was settled in what you might call a minor bowl. Holiday Bowl really struggled to get up there with the big guys, but once they did, there was no turning back, and that's the way it should be. Bruce, I'll tell you, I think the Holiday Bowl should be part of what's left of the BCS and the new format that's coming up, because there's no better place to be than San Diego at that time of the year, and the fans have been great in coming to the Holiday Bowl, and I just think that you guys belong with the rest of them. The Holiday Bowl should be part of the national championship.
And with that, Tony, we will wrap up this segment. Tony Roberts, longtime voice of the Holiday Bowl, a member of the Holiday Bowl Hall of Fame, the only broadcaster in our hall. Tony, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for asking, and I can't wait to see who you pick for this one.
Neither can we.
Take care, Tony.